Many of you have heard that Beyonce has this alter ego, Sasha Fierce, right? And so she channels her Sasha Fierce before she gets on stage. I wrote about this in my book where I describe this as like step right up to the greatest show on earth. It's almost like you're putting on this costume of this person that maybe you don't feel like yet, but it's the person that you aspire to be. It's the person that is brave, that is courageous, that is confident, that is consistent, right? And you allow yourself to step into and embody that version of you so that from that perspective, all of a sudden, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your behavior are in line with that identity, okay?
Welcome to the Spiral Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. LaChelle Wieme, a peak performance coach and business strategist dedicated to helping you see what's possible within you, the blind spots that are holding you back, and the solutions to ensure success and fulfillment without the hustle. I use my secret sauce of metaphysics, brain science, and scripture to work with God to manifest your ideal life and business. If you're ready to create massive forward momentum in your business and bust through the blocks that drag you down, join me on the Spiral Up journey and create the clarity, confidence, and consistency to become the CEO that lives your life by design. It's time to create the sustainable impact, income, and time freedom you desire faster. Now is the time to spiral up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Spiral Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. LaChelle Wieme, and we are going to talk about what I believe is the source code for literally sustainable change and massive progress. And I believe in this so much that it has literally become foundation of everything that I'm doing inside of all of my coaching, inside of all of my podcast interviews, all of the things that I write about and speak about, because I believe it's that foundational. In the personal development space, I think that a lot of us have been taught that our thoughts create our feelings create our beliefs, create our behaviors, and our behaviors create our results. And I think that that is an absolute justifiable way to look at things. In fact, is how I have looked at things my whole personal development journey. It is how I have addressed clients, and I still utilize things from each one of those pieces in the way that I teach people. But the thing that I notice over and over again is that process only works as long as the results are what we expect them to be. All right. So the moment that you send, the promotional text and your best friend unsubscribes, the moment that post for the very first time and you get no reactions, or somebody says a mean comment, the moment that you set a goal and you don't meet it, right? And so the results then create, instead of this being a linear process, it creates a loop. And so what happens is that result that you're disappointed in actually influences your thoughts. And all of a sudden you're like, gosh, my best friend doesn't support me, or nobody wants what I have, or maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this, or this isn't for me, all the things, right? Like all of a sudden we start to think the thoughts that are going to create the feelings of us being sad or frustrated or ashamed or disappointed. And those feelings influence our beliefs about the world, how the world works, how we fit in the world. And we stop believing in ourselves. We stop believing that it's possible. We stop believing it's possible for us. And then what happens? Our behavior changes. We start to avoid the things that we know we need to do. We start and stop instead of being consistent. We send the message, but it's weak and full of self-doubt. And then what happens is that our results literally become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And over and over again, I see this spiraling down because our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our behaviors are leading to essentially the results that we don't want. All right. And it's so frustrating because I see really hardworking people get to this place on all levels of their journey, right? It might be somebody who's brand new starting their business and the first time you ever post or share. It might be somebody who is at the very top of their career and they're making 7 figures. And now all of a sudden they have to speak on stage for the first time, or write the book, or have a hard conversation with someone, right? And we begin this downward spiral. So the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs, the behaviors, the actions work, again, as long as the results are what we expect. But the moment they're not, it becomes this shaky foundation and becomes this self-fulfilling loop. And so what I believe what I believe and I teach and I embody is that at the source of all of that, at the very start of that entire process, is identity. Who am I being? What is the person that I am showing up as being before I think, before I feel, before I believe, before I behave? All right. So I'm going to give you guys a little example, I guess, that many of you probably can relate to. Many of you have heard that Beyonce has this alter ego, Sasha Fierce, right? And so she channels her Sasha Fierce before she gets on stage. I wrote about this in my book where I describe this as like step right up to the greatest show on earth. It's almost like you're putting on this costume of this person that maybe you don't feel like yet, but it's the person that you aspire to be. It's the person that is brave, that is courageous, that is confident, that is consistent, right? And you allow yourself to step into and embody that version of you so that from that perspective, all of a sudden your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your behavior are in line with that identity. Okay. Now, the identity piece is something that oftentimes we have to choose over and over again until it really becomes embodied. I actually do identity recalibrations with people so that I can essentially collapse the timeline and help them to shift into the frequency of that version of themselves that they want to be. But really, the rest of the world hasn't recalibrated to that yet. So they're going to continue to be pressured or tempted, I guess, to dip down into their old identity. And it takes a choice consistently to stay into or to choose that identity. And so I feel like we can use the Sasha Fierce example as a way for us to bring this into the practical concepts. And I'm going to give you a couple of different examples of paradigms, identity paradigms that I want you to consider, because I think, again, when we are aware of what identity we're showing up as, and then we choose to shift ourselves back to that source code identity that we want to become, all of a sudden, it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy of those results. And I promise you guys that your life, your business, everything is going to change when you operate from that identity over and over and over again. Okay. So the paradigms that I want to give you guys as an example are the queen as our goal. Okay. So let me describe the queen. The queen is, in my description, she's like the Disney fairy tale queen, but she's like the beautiful, approachable, confident, courageous queen. She carries herself with poise and dignity. She dresses beautifully. She is magnetic. Like, people want to be around her. She's warm and inviting as well. And people just can't get enough of her, but they respect her and they look up to her. And she knows who she is. She knows her worth. She knows that things are going to work out. She trusts herself. She trusts her higher power. She carries herself with this dignity, but she also has this humility. Like, that is what I think of when I think of the queen. All right. And that is the version of myself that I want to aspire to be. That version of me gets to show up on this podcast. That version of me gets to show up when I have a conversation. That version of me had to show up a couple weeks ago when I was at a retirement party for a former colleague of mine, and I hadn't seen these former colleagues for years, and I was a little nervous. And I'm like, okay, LaChelle, show up as the queen. And I had to step into that identity, step into that persona, step into that confidence so that I could get there. And then as soon as I was able to have, a conversation with a couple people, all of a sudden I started to relax. Okay, I didn't die. Things are going to be fine, right? But I had to start with the identity first. I had to decide who I was going to be when I showed up. So the other kind of opposite of the queen, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due. So I've learned these paradigms from my coach that I'm currently working with, Linka. And I love that she uses these terms because it really hit home for me. And I hope that it hits home for you. So another version of, or an offset of the queen is the ice queen. Now, the ice queen is somebody who is almost like overcompensating, right? So the ice queen is showing up. She's like, I don't even care what anybody else thinks of me. I'm going to do what I want, right? And really what we understand is that the ice queen is really just protecting her heart, that she has created ice around her heart to protect it. So therefore, if she keeps you at arm's length, if she shows up first, if she can be the aggressor, if she can be the alpha, then she's not going to get hurt. And so it's a different energy around that. It's a different confidence, because this confidence is almost from a protective energy. It's a protective space. And she's put on this armor to prove not only to others, but more herself. Right. And so I've had this conversation around the queen with some people that have actually like a little bit of resistance around it, almost just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to be better than anybody or elitism or any of that stuff. And I'm like, exactly. And so that's when we see the pendulum swinging and overcompensating in one way, where the ice queen is like, she's confident, but she's spiky. You know what I'm saying? And so what I want to do is help us all to stay in our queen energy, where we are confident and poised and respected, but we also are warm and inviting, and people want to be around us. The ice queen, nobody wants to be around her. She scares them. They feel a little bit less than, because she wants you to feel that way, because she's trying to make herself feel better. Okay. Now, the other paradigm that I see, and I have to admit that I, get dropped down into this less now, but more often than I still want. And that's a prostitute. And Lenka uses that word. And I really, really, the first time that I said that, I was like, ooh, that feels really awkward. Like, ooh, can I say that? And I realized that I love that word because it feels icky. It feels uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't want to be the prostitute. And so when my nervous system says, oh, I don't want to be that, then I'm able to choose something else, right? So sometimes it's really good when we recognize what we don't want and it feels icky enough to actually move us into action for some other choice. And so let me describe to you what the prostitute is like, because once you start recognizing the prostitute in yourself, that awareness is going to help you shift into the queen. All right. So what does the prostitute show up like? She is constantly trying to give of herself in order to get something back, right? So she's giving of herself in order to get love back, to get worthiness, to get affirmations, to be good enough, right? And so what does she do? Her behaviors are constantly essentially pimping out her time, pimping out her energy, pimping out her self-respect. And so she is saying yes to things that she doesn't want to do. So this is where people pleasing comes in, right? This is where we find ourselves doing things not because we want to, but because we have to. We don't want to upset somebody else, or we want them to like us, or we don't want to disappoint them. And so we're giving of ourselves and something of ourselves in order to get something back from somebody else. And this is a very disempowered place to be. It's a place where you have put your value, your worth, your confidence in the hands of somebody else. And in you having to perform, or you having to do something, or you having to give up something of yourself in order to get that back. Whereas the queen, she already has that self-worth inside of her. She already knows that she has everything she needs, that she doesn't need validation from anyone else. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't love other people. And I've had this episode went out, gosh, a couple of years ago, where I recognized I came to this place in my identity where I realized that I love you, but I don't need you. And that doesn't mean that I don't want you around or that I don't love you less, but it means that I can love myself without needing that from you. That you are almost like this beautiful sparkles on the top of a cupcake, but I already am the full cupcake. I already am worthy and whole on my own. I get that from my higher power. And so I get to have amazing people around me, but those people don't define me. Those people don't complete me. I am already whole and complete, and they make my life better, but I exist even without them, right? And so the prostitute is consistently going to do things that are going to essentially protect our little ego selves, right? So the prostitute is the woman who's going to show up and she's going to undercharge. She's not going to charge what she's worth because she doesn't want to offend someone, or she doesn't want to send clients away, or she's going to discount, or she's going to say, no, it's okay, I'll just coach you for free, right? That's the prostitute energy coming in because you want to please them in order to get something from them. That you're doing something because you want the money, or you're doing something because you want the validation, not what you would actually want to do, not what you would choose to do. And so you're allowing that experience to essentially define whether or not you're okay or not. And if they say no, you take it personally because you have put your worth in their hands. If you reach out to someone and they don't accept your offer, the prostitute is going to make it about herself. What was wrong with me? What do I need to fix? Maybe, but the queen is going to be like, maybe it was for her and maybe it just wasn't. The queen would say, is there something I can do differently in my process, but I'm still okay? The queen is going to say, I recognize that maybe that they're not ready yet, that they're not ready to bet on themselves yet, but that has nothing to do with me. And so I find a lot of overlap, I guess, with the prostitute and codependency. And I know that I have a lot of patterns of codependent relationships in my life where I felt like there were people that were really sensitive and emotionally charged, and I felt like I was responsible for their emotions. So I would be careful what I said or what I did not to upset them and all the things, or I would be of service in order because I needed to be needed, right? That came from the prostitute energy. I wasn't okay on my own. And this was a big thing with me, gosh, like a decade ago when I was leading a very large network marketing team. And I felt that I couldn't delegate anything because I didn't want to bother anyone. Because I feared that if I bothered them, then they wouldn't like me, that they would leave, right? Or they wouldn't, it was like this fear of being alone, this fear of subjecting myself to that rejection. So I kept essentially pimping out my talents and my time and not respecting myself well enough to say, hey, I would really love some help with this. And so I allowed myself to make decisions from that prostitute energy. I will tell you, my most recent aha was recognizing that I was holding back. I feel like I haven't been posting as much as I normally have for like the last decade on social media. And I'm like, what's that about? And it was really this acknowledgement that some of the things that I teach now are not the same things that I've taught in the past. And that I'm like, gosh, maybe there's some people who are going to be like, well, you've changed, right? I have. I 100% have. I love who I am now. But there was a little bit of fear around being rejected from these people. And so what I was doing is I was overthinking and I was not sharing. That was prostitute energy. That was me making my worth be wrapped up in their approval of me or their acceptance of me or their relationship of me. And this is the crazy thing. Like most of the time, I'm just going to let you in on this little secret. When we say they, it's usually one or two people. So I'm going to challenge you to think about that. Like they are going to judge me. Who's they? Okay. Now I think about my they, one of my theys, I have not talked to in years. I've not seen this person. I have not talked to this person. They are not somebody close to me. Why the hell am I letting this illusion of whether or not this person approves of me or not keep me from doing the work that I'm put on this planet to do? And the people that do need and do align with what I have to say are waiting for me. But I allowed myself to get into my prostitute energy. So the queen just knows. The queen is going to be fine if she's rejected. The queen knows that her role is to serve. The queen is humble. She recognizes she makes mistakes, but she shifts. The queen shows up with her shoulders back. The queen dresses in a way that allows for herself to feel the most confident. That means that perhaps it even means going to Target without makeup on because the queen doesn't care. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like there's so much power in this identity. And so we joke around a little bit in my coaching because my people, we like to grow, but we also are real and we're fun and whatever else. And I just remember like, okay, who's being a whore today? Because we get to laugh at ourselves a little bit to recognize, okay, where am I showing up? Where am I showing up? And this is the thing too, as I want to kind of wrap this identity piece up, because when you start to show up as the queen, when you stop acting like the prostitute who needs to be needed, who needs to be liked, who needs to be accepted, and you know that you are already whole and complete. And I'm going to bring this analogy and then I'm going to say what I was just going to say. I compare this a lot to pouring a pitcher of water, right? So if I'm pouring a pitcher of water, I'm turning it over on its side to get the water out. And it's almost like when I give of myself as a prostitute, I'm expecting something to come back. I'm expecting once I give of myself, my service, then I will get thanks or I'll get approval or I'll get worth from this person or love from this person. But how many of you guys can actually acknowledge the fact that when I pour from a pitcher of water, nothing goes back in. The laws of gravity don't allow for that to happen, right? So I'm pouring out, but there's no way for things to come back in. There's no way for me to get what I need from that paradigm. And I've also disconnected myself from source. So eventually that pitcher is going to run dry. The alternative to that is to be like a vase of water who is upright and constantly being poured into from source, from God. And it literally becomes the overflow that comes out of the top of the vase that goes into the service of other people, that I can love other people because I've already whole and complete within myself, that I don't have any needing energy or fear of rejection and doing things that I don't want to do, where I get to just show up as me and give my best and love them big and allow myself to be big and allow them to be big and allow for all of those things to happen. So when you can start showing up as the queen, as that base, you're going to find that the people that you serve around you, the people that you love, when you love them without needing anything back, that you just love them, you're going to find a different energy around that. And people are going to start to recognize that. And they're going to start to recalibrate to who you are. And your spouse is going to start to behave differently. Your clients, you're going to start attracting new clients. You're going to have current clients start shifting their energy because of what you're modeling and how you are essentially creating that calibration for them. And I had one of my clients tell me that she had a conversation with her husband. And she's like, sweetheart, I'm learning these things about the queen and the whore. That's what she called it because that word made her even more uncomfortable. And so she didn't like it. And she said, I just got to say that I treat you like my king because that's who you are in my mind. But I'm going to ask you, do you think of me as your queen or do you think of me as your whore? Because she started to see that she deserved to be the queen. And I got to tell you guys, like that conversation changed everything for their marriage. And that she started to be treated like the queen because he started to recognize that, man, he was expecting a lot of her. He was demanding a lot of her. He wasn't giving her a lot of love and respect. And when he started to treat her like the queen, everything changed in their dynamics. And so I want you to recognize that this is for you. This is for you. But once you start to see yourself as that person and you allow that queen energy to start indicating what would she think? Well, how would she feel? How would she believe about this? Or what would she believe about this? How would she behave? Would the queen avoid this or would the queen do it? Would the queen think, oh my gosh, everybody's going to hate me? Or would the queen say, I don't care because I know that I'm in my truth? Would the queen feel all anxious or would the queen just feel empowered? The queen inside of you will literally change your life in your personal and professional life. You will start to attract different clients. You will start to do things that you've been avoiding. You will start to feel empowered. And one of the things that I do is I do offer a service where I will do an identity recalibration with you to help you to essentially shift yourself, timeline jump into the version of you that is your Sasha Fierce, right? That is your queen, and help you to operate and embody that as your new source code. And so in the meantime, though, if you have not had a session with me like that, you can choose that person, that person that you're Sasha Fierce or your queen, and try just acting as if you are already her, asking yourself, how would she think? How would she feel? How would she believe? And see how that works. Because I know it does. Now, I also have this beautiful invitation that I will be happy to offer you. I do reserve a few spots on my calendar every single month for an identity gap assessment where I'm able to help you see the identity that you want to operate at. So we describe your queen, and then I help you see where you're actually operating and help you to know what you need to do to close that gap. So I want you to go ahead and head on over to my website or check the link in the show notes to schedule that. I have a few free consultations every single month, so go ahead and grab one of those. And I just want you all to know that I believe in you. I believe in you, queen. Now let's do this, okay? Love you guys. And I'll talk to you very, very soon on the next episode.
So much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Each honest review helps me spiral up so that I can serve you even better. Whether you're feeling a lack of impact, income, or time freedom, or perhaps you're just ready for massive momentum in your business, let's chat. Apply for a breakthrough call so that you can gain clarity, identify what's holding you back, and make a plan to spiral up. Head on over to im-lifebydesign.com/breakthrough or access the link in the show notes. For immediate support, log into our community, the Better Club. We focus on inspiration, tactical guidance, and support. This is a community that wants to be better, do better, and have better in life and in business, and we're going to help you do the same. Let's spiral up, friends.